Hey, Warren Eckstein here. I want to talk about the benefits of adopting senior dogs. You know, I'm such a big advocate, and so many of my listeners are absolutely the most incredible people in the world because they go to the shelter and they come out with a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old dog. You guys amaze me. But I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of senior pets. For example, do you know at what age dogs and cats are actually considered senior? I put together this whole story for you. It actually varies not only by species but also by size and breed. For example, smaller breeds like Chihuahuas, Yorkies, Pekingese become seniors later in life, opposed to Bernese Mountain Dog, Irish Wolfhound, or other giant breeds that are seniors much younger. But here's the average, and this is kind of interesting. On the average, small breed dogs become seniors between 10 and 12 years. So smaller breeds between 10 and 12 years, that's their senior state. For giant breeds, it's between 6 and 7 years old. And everyone in between is approximately 7 to 9 years old, depending on many factors, obviously. Cats, on the other hand, tend to be considered seniors at 12 to 13 years old as well. And this is what I want people to understand. Age is not a disease. There's no reason not to adopt a senior dog or a senior cat. Let me repeat that. Age is not a disease. Senior dogs and senior cats can live amazingly full, rich, long, comfortable, healthy lives, especially if you work closely with your veterinarian. You know, over the years, I've had the amazing opportunity of adopting many older dogs, some as old as 14 and 15, some 10, some 11. You know, I had as many as 30 dogs at one time. Don't tell anybody. Anyway, the bottom line is this. I honestly believe this from my heart. And anyone out there who's adopted a senior dog, tell me if I'm wrong or right. I believe that when you adopt a senior dog, they know it and they pay you back every day for the rest of their lives. You know, when you go to a shelter, and over the years, and I've spent way too much time at shelters, way too much time at shelters. Someday I'll tell you stories about some of the work I've done at shelters, but I don't want to get into that as much as the opportunity that I want you to understand that if you go to a shelter, everyone's looking at the puppies, everyone's looking at the kittens. Look for those senior and older pets. And what breaks my heart more than anything is so many of the senior dogs and senior cats at shelters previously had a good home. They had a home maybe like yours or a home maybe like mine where they were loved, they were cared for, they were schmoozed, they were hugged every day. But for some reason, they lost that home. And now they wound up at the shelter. And these dogs and these cats have such an incredibly difficult time adjusting at the shelter because they've never had that before. It's a lot easier. Not that it's better, but it's a lot easier for a puppy or a kitten to adjust than it is for a senior dog or a senior cat. And if you spent any time at a shelter, and so many of you guys are my rescuers, I know you've been there, you can look at their eyes, you can look at them in their runs, in their kennels, in their cages, and the depression that goes through them, the give up. That's what makes me crazy. When I go to a shelter and I see a senior dog that had a wonderful life, maybe with some family, how it wound up the shelter, I'll talk about that in a minute. But you just look at them and you can just see they're giving up. They're giving up. What else? What's the point? Why go on? Well, there is a why go on. Why go on is because people like you adopt them. That's why go on. Here's the hardest part. So many times I've been at shelters that where a couple will bring in a dog or a cat, and the reason for bringing in that dog or cat was their adult parent or a guardian they knew died. And so this person and this pet that or symbiotic all these years, person passed away, and the family, how can anyone do it? The family takes the pet of the deceased family member and they put that dog or that cat in a shelter. That dog, maybe I'm a little eccentric, but if you live long enough with a dog, if you live long enough with a cat, part of that dog, part of that cat is your personality. So the personality of that dog or cat you're bringing to the shelter is part of that family member that may be deceased. Think about that. The other thing I want to leave you with here is that there's nothing more rewarding than watching a senior dog or a senior cat leave a shelter, come into a home, go through that little bit of time that it takes for them to adjust, month, two, sometimes three, sometimes six, sometimes a year. But ultimately they do adjust. And then to see that giving up attitude they had in the shelter, all of a sudden they become alive and let's go for a walk, let's do this. That that's what makes it all worth it. So I want you to understand that. As I said, seniors have so much more difficult time adjusting at shelters. So if you're thinking about adding a dog or a cat, think about seniors. They really can use your help, and there's so many benefits. Listen, I don't think I could put up with a puppy anymore. As many puppies as I've had, I'm older now. I want a dog that wants to sit around and read the paper with me, or go for a stroll rather than a run, or hang out in the backyard rather than chase things around all day. Many benefits of having a senior pet. There really are. So if you're considering adopting, you know what I'm talking about. You want to go out and do that. It makes a huge difference to them, makes a huge difference to you. And by the way, if you have a pet and maybe they're not a senior now, please set up a living trust for your dogs and cats. This way, God forbid, when your time comes to cross the bridge, what's going to happen to your dog or cat if you've taken the time, not a will, but if you've taken the time to speak to an attorney and set up a living trust for your dog or cat, you can cross the bridge knowing that your pet will be taken care of. Don't miss the pet show. Don't miss the pet show this week. Don't miss the pet show any week. These are the topics we talk about. Things you're not going to hear anywhere else. Plus the fact we always resolve all of your issues, whether your dog is peeing, jumping, humping, digging, your cat scratching, not using a litter box. And we have a lot of fun on the pet show too. But we also do this. Over the years, my listeners have probably adopted more senior dogs and more senior cats than any other group of people. So that's why I say every week, thank you, thank you, thank you, and don't miss the pet show.